I'm super excited to be doing a reaction video to the first episode of the show that's super trending and popular on Netflix right now called Partner Track. And why am I qualified to do a reaction video to it? Well, I am an Asian American female attorney just like Ingrid. I used to work at a big law firm as an M&A associate. So everything that she's doing, I have done. And I love the show. It's so fun. I love the fashion. I mean, I even got all dressed up today in celebration. And I thought it'd be fun to kind of take you guys into the big law world, enjoy all the spicy romances, which doesn't really exist in big law, and kind of react to whether or not some of the things that they do or talk about or have happened in their lives is realistic or not. I would say most of the show is, but some of it's not at all. So let's get right into the show.
Newton's first law of motion. An object at rest stays at rest, and an object in motion stays in motion.
I do like her pink suit. I don't know how realistic it is to wear a pink suit in big law. I mean, I certainly didn't. I wore a lot of black, a lot of gray when I worked at Hogan Lovells, but you know, at least she's got a suit jacket on. That's realistic.
And why mergers and acquisitions? Because I've always wanted to be the best. The toughest, smartest corporate lawyers do M&A.
Is there any truth about M&A being the toughest and the best? I think the litigators will probably dispute that.
Oh, right. Guys never apologize. Sorry.
How true is that guys never apologize? I actually think it's pretty true. It's something that I really need to work on. I always find myself apologizing, and I'm always trying to remind my daughter not to apologize so much. Because it's true. Guys don't apologize, but women do all over the place. At least Ingrid didn't apologize when that guy bumped into her. I found myself doing that a lot when I was young.
M&A's only promoting 2, maybe 3 junior partners this year.
Right, you, Dan, and Todd.
Maybe. We're neck and neck.
Okay, hold on 1 second. There's no way anybody makes partner 6 years now. Maybe, just maybe, when Helen was coming up in her New York law career 20 years ago, maybe 20 years ago, they would make someone a partner in 6 years. But nowadays, it really takes more like 8 to 10 years. I just checked with my friend who is an amazing kick-ass female partner at O'Melveny, and she said that she made partner in 8 years.
It's like Marty's rain dance paid off.
Marty's not a rainmaker, he's a kingmaker.
That comment about Marty not being a rainmaker, but a kingmaker is very true. Look, at a big law firm, you could have hundreds of partners, but not every partner is, you know, respected and revered, because the partners that make the money, who bring in the clients and bring in the deals, those are the rainmakers. And they're the ones who make a lot more money every year because it's all, you know, profit driven. And those are the partners that you want to work for. So at a big law firm, you could be assigned to a department. I was part of the entertainment and media / M&A department. And you could be assigned to like 1 to 2, 3 partners. And that's always a balance. You have to balance your work between the different partners and have to tell, no, actually you can't tell a partner you can't do their work. You just got to do it all. That's why big law is so amazing and it pays you so much. It's actually not amazing. It just pays you a lot. So for those of you in law school who think you want to go into big law, realize that this might not be your dream job. It just, you might think it is because it pays so much money. That's why so many people burn out from big law. Did you know that the attrition rate in big law is 50%? By the 5th year, 50% of the first year associate class is gone.
I have your mother on the line.
I'll call her back later. And I need all the intel on Marty Adler's new deal.
You're a new paralegal.
So how realistic is the paralegal? Well, I mean, everything's a little dramatized, right? But it is very true that most lawyers at big law firms have an assistant, a secretary, as Ingrid has in The Older Woman, and they usually have a paralegal that's assigned to them. And now this paralegal is probably assigned to a few attorneys, but the secretary at a big law firm is usually very old school. They usually only answer phones and do calendaring. And the paralegal will actually do slight legal work. You know, they might go look for files. They might do filing. When I was at Skadden, I worked there when I was an undergrad at Berkeley. And then I worked for Skadden a year after I graduated to figure out if I wanted to go to law school. And I actually did. And it's my number one advice to anybody who wants to be a lawyer, whether you're in college or in law school, is you have to work at a law firm. I worked at a few law firms when I was an undergrad. I worked at 2 different law firms. One was a plaintiff's asbestos class lawsuit firm, which was heartbreaking. I knew I never wanted to do that because it's just like people, you know, the plaintiffs are either dying or have died and you're helping their families try to get a little bit of money back from big companies or from the Navy. It was just terrible. And then I worked at Skadden. So definitely go work at a law firm before going to law school. And that's what Justin's doing here, right? Like later on, you find out that he's taking the LSAT because he is applying to law school. And it's very smart because then you know what a lawyer does on a day-to-day basis.
Can you believe there is not 1 but 2 Asian American first years?
Wait, what? Don't they just annihilate each other in a flash of energy and release a photon?
That right there is super disappointing. I mean, how realistic is that there are 2 Asian American first-year associates? Pretty accurate because there are so few of us in big law, in the law professions. When I was at Hogan Lovells, I think I was one of 2 Asian associates. I'm just kind of disappointed in Ingrid. I mean, that was a moment in time for her to say something kind of supportive and be like, oh my gosh, that's amazing that there were 2 Asian American associates. But she made some kind of offhand dismissive, and I don't know about racist, but just, you know, about them canceling each other out. Like, is that an implication that they, you know, Asian Americans like work so hard that they kind of would like collide into each other? I don't know. I was disappointed by that.
You're the transfer from London.
Guilty as charged.
So Ingrid meets Jeff, and Jeff pretends to not remember her. What a jerk.
That's making me mad. Laughter is a coward's expression of fear. Bye. You know, I've asked them to move this paragraph 3 times. I don't.
Oh my God, the first year associate who tries to talk to Marty. It's so cringy, but there's a rule that you do not approach partners like Marty, especially if you're like a first year. Like, you being in a Taiwanese family growing up, like, you do not speak unless you're spoken to. And that's definitely the case in big law. And you don't talk to them unless a partner has a question for you.
This deal could make or break our year. So nobody breathes a word of this. Are you available, Fallon?
Willing and able.
Excellent.
So that right there about this deal could make or break our year is very true. Sometimes you can get on these big deals. Like, this is a $3 billion transaction. I worked on a $3 billion transaction when I was at Hogan Lovells, and it was massive, right? This could, you know, garner a law firm millions and millions of dollars in legal fees just from one deal. And the fact that it needs to be kept quiet is actually very true, unless it's already been announced publicly, which sometimes some deals are. But some deals are kept quiet because they don't want, you know, I think they don't want someone else swooping in and making an offer to Min Enterprises, as they are worried about here.
I can draft up a quick and dirty NDA, get that signed ASAP.
Great, Jan. So, Fallon, I want you to sit in on the kickoff this afternoon. Ted Lassiter, Suncorp CEO, is coming at 3 o'clock.
So I'm pretty impressed that Ingrid kind of like jumped ahead, and she's like so aggressive in trying to get onto this deal. And sometimes you kind of have to do that. You have to like really put yourself out there to make sure you get put on a deal. You know, Marty's comment about we have billable hours. Well, that's for darn sure. So you know how a lot of people in law school like dream of going to a big law firm? It's because the dream is to make $200,000 right out of law school. But do you realize that you need to bill something in the ballpark of 2,200 to 24, maybe even 2,500 hours a year? That comes out to maybe 60 hours of billable hours per week. So that means you're working 12, 14 hours a day, and maybe over weekends when you're working on a big M&A deal like this. I billed 250 hours for the first 6 months. First 6 months that I was working on this deal. And that's how long the deal took. It took 6 months. So 250 hours a month meant I never saw my daughter, never saw my husband. I worked till midnight, 2 o'clock, often, easily. So you might think big law is your dream job, but I think the dream isn't the pay. And that's why a lot of people burn out and don't last in big law.
Justin, nice to see you. Listen, when you get a sec, could we get some Pellegrino brought up?
Of course. Justin, please call dining services and let them know.
Okay, the fact that he mistaken Ingrid as the assistant and went and shook Justin's hands is not surprising. It's happened to me before. When I'm in a room, they think I am the assistant, and it's super disrespectful and irritating.
Back when I was at McKinsey, I ran so many liquid natural gas models. I was dreaming accretion and dilution analysis in my sleep.
Okay, the fact that Justin just went and sat right next to the client, like, how entitled is he? I mean, I would have never, as a paralegal, even thought about sitting at the table, even if there were 20 seats available. Paralegals are supposed to sit against the wall. And as we find out later, Justin comes from a wealthy family. So wealth does build, you kind of have a built-in confidence, right? That you're very welcomed at the table. Whereas women like myself and Ingrid have to fight our way up the ladder and fight for a seat at the table.
Ingrid, have you heard from Marlena? 오늘 세 번이나 해봤는데 전화를 안 받네. I just want to be sure she's okay.
I really like these sprinklings of, you know, kind of the immigrant life. I don't know if Ingrid's an immigrant like I am, but it's clear her parents are. And it's very true. Asian parents always call the oldest child when they're looking for their younger siblings. I am the oldest child. So my parents or my mom will call me and say, hey, can you call your sister or can you call your brother and tell them X, Y, and Z? Because they don't seem to ever want to tell them themselves. Or there's definitely a language barrier. I mean, my brother and sister, well, definitely my brother who's younger has a hard time communicating with my parents. But I really like this, you know, showing that Ingrid is very much part of an Asian American immigrant family.
You're late.
Marty Adler dropped by
When?
an hour ago. I told him you'd be right back, but I think he'd been looking for Dan.
So this part where Ingrid, you know, missed a partner who dropped by, right? That's always like cause for panic because partners don't usually come looking for you. And if they come looking for you in person, you better be at your desk. This reminds me of one time and realized I had been working on this M&A deal for like 6 months, never leaving my desk, not even going home. And the one time the partner came to look for me, she was like, where's Tyler? And I think I went to the bathroom and she came back and she had the audacity to say to my assistant, you know, maybe Tyler should go on part-time. She's like never here. Like she's always dealing with childcare. Oh my God, by the way, that's illegal and you should never say that. And I think I took my daughter, I had to pick up my daughter once because she got sick at school because she was running a fever and I had to take her to doctors. And that taught me to never tell your boss, at least certainly a female attorney, that you're taking care of a child. So now I actually do not say where I'm going. If I have doctor's appointments for my kids, I just don't say it. And that is the very difficult part of being a working mom in the law profession.
You around later if I need you?
Yes, I'll be here all night.
Good.
Anytime, Marty.
I will be here all night. I will be here all night. That is very true. Partners like expect you to be on call at the firm at all times. Do you know why you get paid $200,000 as a first-year associate? It's because you no longer own your life, right? When you work for a big law firm, the firm owns you. So if a firm is going to pay you $500,000, then yes, you say to Marty, like Ingrid does, yes, I will be here all night. On the off chance that he might call or come back to the office, you want to be there. You want to like be slaving away, and it's just like the hustle of being always on is so prevalent and so pervasive and suffocating at a big law firm.
Mark brought me up to speed about your budgetary concerns. I had 2 senior associates on the matter to make sure we were steering the ship in the right direction. But going forward, we will keep just one.
Okay, the biggest inconsistency of this first episode is the fact that there's one senior associate working on the entire M&A deal. On a deal like this, that's almost $3 billion. Yes, there might be one senior associate. For our deal, when I was at Hogan Lovells, there were 2, and we had 5 or 6 junior associates who were going through the due diligence. There's no way on a deal as big as this that there's only one associate. I get the desire to save money, but honestly, you cannot do a $3 billion acquisition with one associate. That's like ridiculous.
Winston and I were in the SPE together. He's a very good friend, and it never hurts to have a friendly face at the DOE.
Well, that could be very valuable indeed.
So this part where Dan pulls the card of like, oh, I know so-and-so because we went to school together. I mean, that, I think as an immigrant myself, I think there are people in the world, in law and medicine, who grow up differently than certainly I did, right? I didn't go to private schools. I didn't go to like, you know, top, you know, Ivy Leagues. And so I didn't have connections, and Dan is very comfortable using his connections to get ahead. And it's a little douchey and despicable, but that's the way the world runs.
You stole my idea. Intangibles, goodwill assets. You cheated.
Not really. Just different rules.
And Dan has no problem playing by different rules. He's just like, I didn't cheat. We just play by different rules. And I think that will become a valuable lesson for Ingrid. And I will say that throughout my career in law, I have encountered lawyers who see the way we advise our clients or interpret the law to be a little bit different than me. And at some point in my law career, I realized, oh, I do not want to work with this person, or I do not want to work for this person. And I had to decide to leave a job because a partner asked me to do something that I did not feel comfortable doing.
Like if I don't make partner, everyone will know I couldn't cut it. I can't just lateral over to some other firm. I'll be like Tara Grotaglia and have to go in-house at some urinary device company. I'll be nobody.
Okay, by the way, like I said, that's no longer the case. If you don't make partner, you're not automatically out. Yes, there is this like, people think, right, that it's not glamorous to lateral over to another law firm, but plenty of people do that nowadays. And that comment about going in-house, actually, it's very desirable to go in-house, right? I went in-house after being at a firm, and and then actually I went to Disney and then back to a firm. So I had a very kind of unique and interesting career path. But I will say that a lot of people who work at law firms end up going in-house, typically like at a client who they supported on the other side, because being in-house actually is a lot more manageable. There are no billable hours and you can get your life back and feel like you don't have to work around the clock. So in-house is actually great.
You can call it blind ambition. Work hard, yeah, I played for the weekends.
Going home alone.
So they're trying on these dresses that are thousands and thousands of dollars. And you're like, oh my God, well, you know, I love the fashion, but how realistic is it that they're buying dresses that cost $3,000, $4,000? If you're making $500,000 a year, very realistic. And I will say I had a lot of friends who were in BigLaw who would buy these beautiful dresses and they would sit in their closet with the tags on, because guess what? When you're in BigLaw, you never go anywhere. You don't have time to go anywhere because you're always working, but you get to buy beautiful clothes and hang them in your closet.
Is this your business casual?
Okay, she just showed up in this incredible like Cinderella gown. You know, she's coming out like she's like Cinderella. And I think, especially for me as an immigrant growing up, like super poor and working in the swap meets, like the fact that I get to dress up now to go to work and have kind of these power Hollywood lunches is kind of a dream come true. Like, you know, we do have to try it in the middle of like all the crazy work and deals and people screaming and people losing their minds. We have to like savor the sweet moments. And you can tell Ingrid's really savoring it.
Well, everyone knows that Lassiter's been looking for an LNG play.
He knows the purchase price.
Okay, so the fact that Ingrid went to Marty after she found out about Dan's screw up is ballsy. And I'm really proud of her because Dan screwed her over and pushed her off the deal. And you know what? Not every woman would do that. Women, we are the ones who are fighting a glass ceiling, not the men. So as much as I can, you know, I can try to be political and not make this gender, but a lot of it is gendered. I mean, my whole career has been about trying to crack this glass ceiling. I am the only female executive at my company, the only one of color. I mean, yeah, I am fighting that battle, the same one that Ingrid is fighting in the partner track. Okay, so that scene where they're like working over the weekend and it's just Ingrid and Justin and her secretary is, again, super, super not realistic, right? I mean, you'd probably have at least a couple of junior associates if they're trying to like create a term sheet for them to sign on Monday.
Thank you so much for helping expedite the process this weekend.
Okay, so it wasn't made very clear what Ingrid was doing over the weekend, but it's pretty clear here now that they're signing a term sheet, right? Which I guess you could do before an M&A deal is completed. Again, that deal could take 3 to 6 months to complete. There's due diligence that still has to be performed. You know, the fact that they're signing a term sheet is unusual, but it does happen if they're trying to prevent another buyer from swooping in and making an offer. The fact that it happened over a weekend is stretching it a little bit.
As you know, we've coordinated with the Financial Times for an exclusive to help shape the message.
But the fact that the CEO, Franklin Min of Min Enterprises, like flips a couple pages, like, I mean, yes, you might think like, oh, wait, like they're just going to sign this. But Carter states that he hasn't worked this hard since law school. So that means he was working with Ingrid over the weekend. They were probably on the phone going back and forth with red lines and drafts. So it isn't like they're presenting them with a draft that they haven't seen. I mean, executives would never sign something that their attorneys haven't like looked over 20 times.
Jan will run point and close the deal.
That work for you?
Sure, why the hell not?
Good. We'll get into due diligence and bring this baby home.
Okay, so at least they mentioned that now they're going to do due diligence, because at first it wasn't very clear. I almost was like they were done with this deal, which would never happen. Okay, so they signed the term sheet, which they've never stated what it was, but it is the term sheet, and now they're going to do the due diligence to make sure that, you know, Min Enterprises states that they have, you know, that they're worth a certain amount, that they own all these assets, and she should have a whole team of associates, but she doesn't. Ingrid will now go through all of Min's financial documents and all agreements associated with their company to make sure that they are worth what they say they're worth.
I hear congratulations are in order. You single-handedly saved the Min deal. Are those...
Jeff Murphy! Are you team Jeff or are you team Nick? I'm definitely team Nick because, I mean, Nick is so sweet and he's like a nerd, and Jeff like pretended that he didn't remember, or did he really forget? I don't know. He just seems shady and slippery to me. So I will say, slight goosebumps. I really love that show. I think it's pretty realistic. And let's talk a little bit about what is BigLaw, right? So BigLaw is, they're usually the biggest law firms, right, in the world. They typically, are ranked by profit. So here are the top 10 big law firms in the world. Kirkland Ellis, Latham Watkins, DLA Piper, Denton's, which is the biggest law firm with 10,000 attorneys all over the world. Baker McKenzie, Skadden Arps is number 6. Clifford Chance, Sidley Austin, Morgan Lewis is 9, and Hogan Lovells is 10. Big law firm requires that you work many, many hours. Yes, you could come out of law school and be offered $200,000 for a first-year associate, but realize that you're going to be working probably 60, 70, 80 hours a week, and you have to hit billable hour requirements at 2,200, 2,400, 2,500 billable hours a year. Basically, you get paid all this money, but the firm owns you. For instance, Skadden in New York has a full gym. They have showers, they have beds, they have a car service to take you home, shower if you don't want to shower at the office, and come right back. They have a cafeteria. They have like a chef on site. They do everything they can to keep you on site, which is not unlike what Google does, right? With all the amenities. They want to keep you there working. Retention is very, very hard at a big law firm. Attrition is about 50%, right? At your 5th year, only about 50% are left. So if you enter into a big law firm with, let's say, 30 people, by your 5th year, probably only 15 are left. And even less go on to make partner, right? So realize that big law, and you know what? Big law is amazing training. Disney will not hire attorneys that come right out of law school. They will only hire you if you've been at a law firm for 5 years. And they love hiring people from big law firms, even if you haven't had any entertainment experience. So I'm super invested in Ingrid right now. Who will she pick? Will she pick Nick? Will she pick Jeff? What will happen? Will she make partner or not? Stay tuned as I go into episode 2 of Partner Track. This is Tyler, the Hollywood attorney. Remember, you're one thought away from joy.